Abortion and slavery, cultural cousins. St. John the Philosopher here. If there's one thing we humans are really good at, it's justifying our evil. There are mounds and mounds of text dating back to the very beginnings of written language itself, wherein intellectuals recount the many reasons why some injustice or another should be tolerated, or even celebrated. America's oft-recounted history of slavery followed that tradition. I talk a lot about the first freedoms on this channel because any internally consistent and coherent worldview has a set of central ideas. And just as there is a common philosophical thread woven through ideologies that point towards what's right, there is always an equivalent thread that unifies the thinking that leads down the path of injustice. For all the progress the United States has made away from the mentality of the slaveholder, we cling even today to its ideological relative. Abortion is just another rotten fruit from the same intellectual tree that produced slavery. And we're going to talk about it. Like the antebellum South, America today is largely blind to the underclass of people that the law refuses to recognize as human. And while slaves were considered the equivalent of livestock, unborn babies are often described as something akin to a cancerous mass. So, 2018 American thought on the practice of abortion very much resembles America of 1818 in regards to slavery. Here are 5 types of arguments common to both slavery and abortion. Economic. The Southern system was completely dependent on slave labor, and not because there weren't alternatives. Northern production had long outstripped their Southern counterparts, mainly because of innovation, something that slavery stifles. But because they desired position more than prosperity, slave advocates argued that abolishing it would cause economic chaos and widespread unemployment. You see, freeing the slaves would cost people money, and we simply can't have that. Similarly, abortion advocates claim that since many pregnancies are terminated because of the financial situation of the mother, we would simply be adding another mouth to feed to the public assistance doles.
More money, more money, more money.
By their calculus, it's better that the mouth be shut permanently. History. Pro-slavery forces often cited historical examples as justifications as well, and pro-abortion advocates sometimes do the same. Oddly enough, they both used Roman examples more often than not. I mean, how can we not take our societal cues from the culture that gave us crucifixion and gladiatorial blood sports? Makes sense.
Marcus Aurelius had a dream that was Rome, Proximo. This is not it. This is not it.
Social good. If you can believe it, slavery advocates actually suggested that the peculiar institution was a net social good, providing a stable structural system by which to mold the dirty savages from across the sea into something resembling a civilized, well, not quite person, but you get it. Abortion advocates seem to have come to the conclusion that that's just way too hard. So instead, it's better to eliminate the savages before they have a chance to enter society. That's why abortion facilities are concentrated in minority neighborhoods. It's more convenient that way. Humanitarianism. This version of the pro-slavery argument states that slaves, lacking in intelligence and work ethic, wouldn't have been able to fend for themselves if left to their own devices. Therefore, their quality of life as slaves was better than it would have been if they were free.
Now you tell me all is lost. Tell no one who I am. That's the way to survive. Well, I don't want to survive. I want to live.
The pro-abortion argument makes a similar claim. All the abortions by the underprivileged reduces the number of children that will be born into poverty. In this version of the idea, it's better to not have a life at all than for it to be of such an undesirable quality.
Those are my kids. Children. What do you say when you meet a nice man?
Are you my daddy?
Justice. As you've no doubt learned when studying the Civil War, one of the go-to defenses of slavery was the idea of property rights. After all, this drives right into the heart of America's founding principles of defense of the natural rights to life, liberty, and property, right? So if slaves are property, who are you to deny someone their property? Likewise, the primary driving political defense of abortion falls under the mantra, my body, my choice. What is liberty if it doesn't extend to the bodily autonomy of women? So that's liberty of property and liberty of liberty, but what about life, you may ask? Well, as in the life of the slave or the life of the baby. You might be onto something there. There are many other defenses used for both slavery and abortion, some of them even claiming inspiration from Christianity. Yes, seriously. But as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a common thread that runs through the ideologies that seek to justify such evil: the denial of humanity. In order for chattel slavery to make any sense to a culture with an underlying Christian ethic claiming the unity of mankind as children of God, the slaves had to be something other than human, or maybe not human enough. So convoluted and strained lines of thought were carefully constructed and proliferated throughout society. Technological differences were signs of mental deficiency, or physical differences indicated biological disparity. And the legal hurdles that perpetuated the situation reinforced these ideas to the exclusion of all contrary evidence. In the same way, abortion thrives on ignorance and unending cultural reinforcement of falsehoods. The validity of all of its defenses hinges on the idea that the unborn child is not a person with individual rights. So just as the opponents of slavery concentrated on the humanity of those the law denied, pro-lifers must do the same. Technology has already exposed the lie that the unborn are just clumps of cells. Advanced sonograms provide vivid, still, and moving images of life in utero. But still, too many remain blind to the reality inside the womb and the scientific reality of procreation itself. Even for those who are willing to concede some ground that this is a baby, they still hold on to the notion that abortion is okay for earlier stages of human development, just because the fetus doesn't look like a person yet. But genetics tells us otherwise. Everyone discussing the idea of destroying human life in its earliest form once held that form. At one time, this was you. Everything that you are, your body type, hair color, the timbre of your voice, the taste buds that make you hate ginger but love cinnamon, the intelligence you're using right now to understand the words I'm speaking, all came from the unique set of DNA formed when your father's sperm joined your mother's egg to become something greater than the sum of its parts. They became you. Yes, even the fertilized egg is human. The abolitionists who toiled for the freedom of their fellow man in the 17th through 19th centuries had the same task as we do now, to explain to the public that we are doing evil to real people. As difficult a time as they had distilling society's compassion for those in clear visible distress, our job is twice as difficult because the victims of today's cultural depravity aren't in chains all around us. They're just gone, thrown away, as though they never existed. Even if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned tomorrow, abortion wouldn't cease to exist. But so long as it does, we must fight it, and we have to do an even better job than the abolitionists did with slavery. For all their striving, it took a war to end slavery. I pray this next civil rights battle is the kind fought only with words. Tell me what you think of this video. Do you think Roe v. Wade will be overturned? What do you think is the best approach for the pro-life movement? Discuss in the comments. In the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more videos on religion, culture, and politics. That's all for today. This is St. John the Philosopher. Goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you in another video.